name is Denzil Lloyd Wallace. That's I like to be called by my full name. So Denzil Lloyd Wallace. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I currently live in the Bronx, New York. So I am I'm 40 years old, and I am currently the second assistant pastor at a church called Pentecostal Baptist Church here in the Bronx, New York.
Wonderful. So you've started a series.
Yes.
You've gotten the first two written.
Yes.
And the name of of that series is?
So it's the Joseph series, and it's based on a character named Joseph Johnson. So the first book is Joseph's Angel, and the second book, that's part one, and the second book is Joseph's Devil.
Okay.
So
And you just finished the second in the series.
yes.
Wonderful. And that's available, I take it, on Amazon?
So Joseph's Angel is available on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and other sources. Joseph's Devil is currently only available through my primary printing company, which is lulu.com.
Oh, Lulu?
Lulu, yeah, lulu.com.
Yes.
That's who I use as my primary. So I'm gonna wait a little while before I have it available through Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, just for other personal reasons. But yeah, so it's available at lulu.com for now.
Okay. And so when we...
Well, let me rephrase that. Sorry. I think the ebook is going to be available very soon on Amazon and so forth for Joseph's Devil.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Well, before we go, we'll make sure that we get those links so
Okay.
that listeners can find that book. So what I'd like to do is visit with you a little bit about what caused you to start writing. What's your journey? How did you get started, and what were some of your challenges?
Okay, well, I'm a late bloomer as far as writing is concerned. I, only one time when I was about maybe 11 years old, I wrote a short story which surprised my teacher because in school I wasn't known as a writer. I was just an average student. But other than that, I didn't write. I wasn't writing stories. But a few years ago, about 3.5 years ago, I guess, I don't know, just a light bulb went off and I had an idea. Well, it was more of a question. You know, I started to think about human beings, especially Christians, really, and our struggles between good and bad, right and wrong. And as Christians, we're very much, look into the spiritual realm as far as forces, spiritual forces, satanic forces, angelic forces. And so I began to think about what influence they might have on the lives of human beings. And so I said, I'm going to write a story about it. And I just put pen to paper and I took just a lot of different thoughts, and also I took a lot of different experiences from others as well as myself, and made up a whole lot of other stuff, and I just put it to a story. And
now, when did you start that story? How long ago was that?
So 2000. Let's see. I want to say 2016.
Okay, and that's what turned into the first of the series, which is Joseph's Angel.
Joseph's Angel, yes.
And so you actually completed that in some writers' terms in a very short period of time.
I suppose. I don't know. But I think when I was excuse me, when I was writing the book, I didn't have an outline. I didn't have an idea of how I wanted it to end. Well, I kind of did, but I'm learning that as you're writing, your mind begins to just create things, and then I just started coming with different thoughts, different ideas, and I probably could have finished it sooner, but I lost where I saved the book. I saved it at some abstract, some third email that I was using, and I forgot that email. So I spent several months not knowing where my book was. Eventually I found it, and I went back to work. But even with that, you still have moments of writer's block where you don't have anything, don't have any inspiration. But eventually I finished the book and got it ready.
Yes, one of the tools that I teach my students and clients, and you really highlighted it, and that is when they start. Oftentimes they have this picture of the character and some of the journey that he's going to be, or he or she or they are going to be going through. And I find that if I help them identify their outline
Hmm.
and pretty much in their own mind identify where that character is going to end up
Hmm.
the end of the book, then we can help kind of weave that theme, and they can then identify all the adventures and everything that goes on between point A and point B. And that tool can be very valuable. So I understand that. If you were to do it again, and I know you've just written another book. How did the writing of the first book vary from the writing of the second book? How did you find that it came a little easier, or was it more difficult? What were some of the challenges or even successes that you ran up against because you'd already had completed one book?
I think the first book was easier. I think the second book, um, I expanded. I got better as a writer. I would say I expanded my word usage. You know, um, but the first book was easier because I kind of knew the different scenes that I wanted to create.
Mm-hmm.
And the second book, I was just totally um, had no idea of the different scenes. I had no idea.
So
So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
so I was a bit more creative in the second book as opposed to the first.
Do you think it had a little more flourish in it then, um, from
Yeah,
a reader's perspective? So,
yeah, I think so. But I mean, if I try to compare both books, it's hard to say which one I like best. Um, it's hard to say because the first one is my baby. This is my baby.
yes.
You know, I'm very proud of it. No matter what anyone says, no matter what any critic says or anything, I'm very proud of this book. Um, but I have a coworker, and I gave him the rough draft of this book, and he loved it. And then I gave him the rough draft of this book, and he loved it. And he's someone whose opinion, I value.
Yeah.
So that just enhanced my confidence to keep on writing, and he liked what I did with the book. So
Wonderful. So let me ask you this. When you started writing, did you know who you were writing that story for? Who who did you have in mind was going to was going to enjoy the story and take your message to heart? Who was that for? Was that for a teenager or was that for an adult? And kind of give me an idea of your ideal reader. What did they look like?
so I think my ideal reader are Christians between the young adult to adult Christians my age and even higher. Um, I didn't have a set demographic when I was writing. I was just writing, but um, it's kind of hard to say. I wasn't targeting a specific audience. If you notice my book, it reflects me. It's African American.
Mhm.
So I think that and some of the stories, some of the characters, a lot of my church friends, it did resonate with them. It's something that they could compare with. They can't get the word, but they saw themselves in some of the characters, you
Okay.
know, in the certain things that happen. So I don't want to limit it, but it definitely does speak to the Black Christian.
Okay. Okay. So I would imagine some of the tales and the stories then, as you say, they're kind of, for lack of a better word, they're kind of twisted toward that vein. Um, some of the incidences within it. Perhaps if if I were interested in learning more, what would you tell me if I were your grandmother and you were telling her, look, I've written this book. What would you want her to take away from that? What's what value would I get personally from reading that book? And why should I read it?
Well, it deals a lot with redemption.
Boy,
You
I
know,
need that.
we all do. We all do. You know, there's definitely a lesson in the books, especially the first one is a lesson there. You know, in life we see that there's people who do bad or who do wrong and get away with it, and there's people who do wrong and they get caught. You know, for example, you know there could be a person who sleeps around, I mean, and never uses protection, but doesn't get any STDs, doesn't get AIDS, doesn't get anybody pregnant.
Mhm.
And then you have this one person who was a virgin till age 25, slept with the wrong person, and gets an STD. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
so it shows that there's still consequences for your actions, and it just shows what happens in life sometimes.
Mhm.
But going back to the redemption part of it, it shows that that God is still calling us, to live a life of righteousness. But it's up to us, and if we're not careful, we can lose our opportunity for redemption if we're not careful.
Mhm. Mhm. And that's a powerful story. I mean, that really touches all of us, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
Yes, yes, and then I'm
That's
sorry
okay.
to cut you off. And then also it speaks. I do a lot of my own. I want to say interpretation, but my own imagination of what the Bible depicts. So I I um I kind of have my own imagination of what angels look like and what devils look like. I have my own interpretation of how they interfere with our lives and what they do, how they might whisper in your ear. You don't even know that they're there, but they're whispering in your ear.
Mhm.
Um, I have my own interpretation of, um, sorry, the let's draw a blank here, but in heaven, there's the Lamb's Book of Life,
Mhm.
which shows all those who are saved,
Mhm.
and I have my own interpretation of that. And it shows all the people's good deeds, both good and bad. It's like a records room that I created,
Mhm.
right? So I kind of, use my imagination of the things that the Bible talks about,
Mhm.
and I kind of like give my own imagination, my own interpretation of how it looks.
Mhm. So let me ask you this: since the story is about redemption, is it geared toward individuals who are in need of redemption that don't know they need it? Or is it geared toward Christians who may have who may have a relationship with the Lord,
Mhm.
however, may have set that relationship aside? Which one of those two would most benefit?
I think both, but the main character is a Christian. He's about a 19-year-old up and coming minister.
Okay.
So he's at that age where he's becoming a man. Um, he's attracted to women. You know,
Mhm.
he's a little bit of a temper, but he's so it. That's why I say mostly Christians might resonate with them.
Mhm.
But in the story itself, I think anybody can put themselves in his
Mhm.
shoes, and
Yes.
see themselves as far as just the internal struggle
Yes.
between doing good and bad, right and wrong.
Yes. Yes. So tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that your main character encounters. What I walk away with, would I after reading that book, what what would I say of that character? Would I
Okay,
want
well,
him to be my friend? Would I be afraid of him? Would he be someone who would put his arm around me if I were in trauma? Um, what Visit with me a little bit about that character and how he develops, and what are some of the challenges that he goes through?
well, in the second book, Joseph's Devil. So first of all, let me just go back for a second. So Joseph's angel, God sends an angel to kind of monitor Joseph. His goal is to not really interfere with his life, but just to keep him just keep him alive. Don't.
Is that serious? Is it?
Yes. He can't really stop it from doing right or wrong,
Mhm.
but if it's life threatening things that he's going to do, then he can interfere.
Okay.
So it's kind of through the lens of the angel.
Okay.
Okay, so Joseph's devil is about 8 years after the end of this book,
Okay.
and Satan sends a particular devil to mess with Joseph,
Okay.
and he makes Joseph's life a living hell. Joseph is a lot more mature, a lot more focused on God. He has his own church as a pastor. Um, he's living a good life. God is pleased with him. So this devil comes. His name is Crimeon, and he comes, and he kills family members. Um, yes,
We
he
really put
causes this.
you in some hellish trials then.
Yes, yes, he causes a lot of distractions, a lot of turmoil in Joseph's life. Joseph, he doesn't let it get to him, but he's human, and he can only take but so much,
Sure.
you know. And I don't want to give away too much, but he gives in, and it comes a point where everybody just wants to just give up in life. Sometimes you're like, you know what, I give up, I quit, and whether that means backsliding from church, or whether it means committing suicide, or doing drugs, something alternative to Christianity, to living a God-fearing life. So, but in the middle of before that happens, just all of these things are happening to Joseph, and he's just trying to stay strong. I kind of do you recall what in the 1990s here in New York we had something called the Crown Heights riots?
I barely recall them. Of course, being further removed,
Mhm.
I remember them,
Okay,
but not much
okay.
about them. Yes.
Well, basically, it was um, uh, an issue between the Jewish community and the Black community,
Mm-hmm.
and they got into it for about 2 or 3 days. It was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I kind of put my own twist on that in this book,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because the devil is all about confusion. He's all about chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So he brings his own confusion between two groups of people,
Mm-hmm.
right, to cause division,
Mm-hmm.
to cause animosity. And if people are at war, then he's happy,
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, you have, Jewish people and the Jewish community who are faithful in their religion, faithful in the way how they serve God. And you have a Christian group, same thing, faithful in how they serve God. And now they're clashing with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So um, they're both basically displeasing God, that because neither one of them is taking the high road or saying, well, let cooler heads prevail.
Mm-hmm.
But they're letting their anger get to them. Why? Because there's these evil forces in the unseen realm who are just egging them on, like an instigator in school.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Yeah.
So, with with your first book, how long has that been released? That's been out what, about 2 years now? Is that right?
No, it came out last September.
Oh, last September. So not quite 2 years. A little over 2 years. So if
No, 1 year.
what I said 2 years. I meant
Yeah,
1 year. Thank you.
that's all right.
Correcting me, because that's what I was thinking. That's not what I said. Um,
It's okay.
with that in mind, what kind of transformations have you seen, either in yourself for writing the book and the struggle and even the challenges and the successes you've had with that? How has that changed you as a person? Or I'd like you to answer this either one or two ways. Either how it's changed you and affected your life since you've written, and you can speak to both books because you've taken it a step further,
Mhm.
or how has it changed those that would read that book? What transformations do you see have taken place, or do you see might take place?
Okay. Well, those who have read the books, the first book, they they said, I can't wait for part two. Please hurry up and write it. You know, but they loved it. I'm not sure how to answer the question, but I don't know if it changed their lives. Well, actually, yes, because they said to me, I want to give this book to my friend, or I want to give this book to my teenage son, so he can see what the spiritual realm is like. Oh my goodness. But I had a coworker, she resigned, but I had a coworker, she loved the book. You know, she's also a Christian. And she said, oh, wow, this is a great book. You know what you should do? Make a children's version of this book, because the first book was slightly graphic. You know, it was slightly graphic. So she was like, make a children's version of this book, because, oh, if I could show it to my young people, you know, they would love it. You know, so I think that this book, as you asked earlier, who could I target? Um, you know, in that sense, young people, I could target young people, because it definitely shows, you know, young people, they're going through so much right now with their hormones changing, their attitudes are changing, and they don't know how to handle it. And I think that my first book especially, can kind of show them that, you know, we understand. We understand that you're going through changes, and it's okay. And you just got to continue to try to focus and trust in God.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you mentioned in the beginning that you thought it was, especially since your main character starts out as a relatively young man, 18, 19, 20, in that change from an young teenager or an older teenager to a young man, and
Mhm.
that transition seems to be, it's just innate in our human nature that there's always tension. At the time that a young man reaches manhood,
Yes,
that it's just built into our nature. He built that into us. Um,
yes.
so as a pastor, would you use those books in a teaching moment? How would you take them further if you were going to? I don't know that that's a fair question, but I have an interest.
Absolutely. We were planning with our young people to have a session where they read the book and then we discuss it a few weeks later, but it never happened. You know, other things came up and it never happened. But that's definitely something that I would want to do with our young people, or just young people in general and from anywhere. I would like them to read the book and see if it resonates with them as well.
That's awesome. That's a wonderful approach. So do you are how involved are you with the youth in your church right now?
Very involved, very involved. We have a youth committee,
Oh,
yes, which I'm a part of,
okay.
and so
Now,
you know,
I'm sorry, I asked you a question and then I didn't let you finish. I'm
uh,
sorry.
just going to say that we do different things with them, or we try to stay engaged with them. I teach one of the youth Sunday school classes, uh, so we have a good relationship with them. You know, there's always a turnover, because as they grow and get older, some of them go to college and go away. Some of them might stop coming to church, you
Mhm.
know. But overall, we have a good group of kids, and you know, I respect them a lot.
How large is your congregation?
We have a small church. Our church is a house church. It's a
Okay.
house church. So we're trying to get another building, but you know that takes time.
It does.
Um, yeah, but I'm not sure what our current membership is. But on a typical Sunday, I would say maybe 50 people, 40 to 50
Wow.
people on a typical Sunday.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. Especially if you're so well with that. If you if you were to give a new writer a some advice that have not published their book yet, but they're beginning to get the book that's in their head on paper. What what would be your best advice to a brand new writer seeking to be published?
Obviously, do some research, but most importantly, just write. Just start writing, even if it's, you know, crap. Just write, get it on paper,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can always make changes afterward. But just write whatever thoughts you have. Don't worry about how it sounds. Um, that's my best advice. Just write, you know.
I think that's
And
very good advice. It's very good advice. I have found that when I encourage my clients and students to do that, that like you, oftentimes the story just begins to weave itself. So I think that's very, very good advice. Now, when you published your books, did you self-publish your books then?
Yes, I did. So, and that's what I said about doing research. I did self-publish both of them through lulu.com, which I have no problem with them. Uh, but the first book, Joseph's Angel, basically they own the rights. This is their ISBN.
Oh,
This is their
yes,
ISBN.
that's very good point. So, yeah.
Yes. So I learned my lesson. I mean, and I bought my own ISBN. I purchased one. So, I own that one basically.
Yes.
So learning the ins and outs of writing a book and publishing and the legalities is you got to do some research.
For our listeners, the importance of owning your own ISBN is that each publication, each book, and each version of that book. So if you have a paperback book by the same title, and you have a book published on Kindle by the same title, and you have an audiobook by the same title, each version will need its own ISBN. It's an identifier similar to when you go to the grocery store and there's a SKU. It's the same thing. The difference is that an ISBN is in the States is regulated through a company called Bowker's, and you can only buy it through them if you're purchasing it for yourself. And as you mentioned, Denzil, I personally caution individuals to be careful about using publishing, self-publishing platforms, or Lulu, as you have done, they provide a free one. CreateSpace provides a free one. There are several platforms that do. However, as you pointed out, if you choose to use theirs and they provide it for you free, they own the rights, or they own the ISBN and the publishing rights. And so that is something that we always caution. So with that, let me ask one other question. When you went to bring your book to your readership, did you conduct a formal book launch? Did you go to your friends and family? How did you do that, and what would you do differently?
So no, I didn't do a formal book launch. I did do a book signing event at a bookstore in Harlem. Unfortunately, it snowed that day. So my book came out in September, and I booked it with them in because her schedule was already booked. So I didn't get it until like late November or early December. I can't recall. And on that particular Saturday, it snowed really bad. So very few people showed up. But I didn't have it organized. Even the second book, I haven't had a book launch. I don't have a book release party. I just, once I was done, I uploaded it, I approved it, and then I was using my social media platform to let people know that it's coming out.
Yeah.
I have my Facebook page. I have a second Facebook page, my author page that I use, and I have my Instagram, and I have a YouTube page that I haven't been using a lot lately. But those pages I've been promoting the book, saying it'll be out in a few months. Get ready. And then once the cover was ready, I'll put the cover out on my pages to show them, this is the cover for the book. So a lot of the readers, a lot of the fans who bought the first book, they are aware that it's out, and so yeah, that's my platform, social media, basically.
Yes, and social media is a very good one. I would recommend as you go forward, there are some tools you can use to help you to get that word out very succinctly and in a short time frame that can boost your sales. And there are platforms like this. I would highly encourage you as a new author to seek out other individuals who are interviewing, and they can interview very specific genres, as in your case, Christian youth. where essentially their audience is Christian youth, excuse me,
Hmm.
and get the word out about your book. Share
Okay.
it. I believe that there is that there is a calling, and that we are truly being gathered to share God's word more than we have in centuries past. And I think that has to do with the times. And so I'm here, and I'm happy to assist, and I'm just so thankful that this came about for both of us, this opportunity. So with that, do you have any last parting advice for a new author? Obviously you said to write. It sounded like as we were conversing, that having a good solid outline would be a good idea too.
Hmm.
Any other advice, or perhaps there's a special tool you may have found in your writing that was beneficial to you?
Um, Obviously, it's good to just keep reading, to just read.
Mhm.
Um, just listen to other people, listen to other people's opinions and advice and see what they have to say. Um, any anything additional other than writing that I can think of? Oh, well, here's one thing I would say. I would say definitely have faith in yourself. And, you know, in my first book, I state that I'm not a writer. I say that I don't consider myself to be a writer. And, but finishing this book made me believe in myself that I can do, that I can write something and that it can have an effect on people's lives. And so, meaning if this book didn't do well or people didn't like it, I would have given up. But once I saw that people liked it, I said, I can actually do this. I'm not the greatest writer, but I'm okay. And some people will like what I have to say. So I'm going to keep doing it. And what happened for me is that other ideas started coming into my head. I have 2 ideas for 2 screenplays that I want to do.
There you go.
You know, you know. And so I kind of started it, but I stopped to finish my second book. Um, but so once you have found something that you're passionate about, just work on it. Just start doing it, and as you do it, you'll get better. Because usually when you love something, you try your hardest. And when you love something, you put effort into it. And and so I put effort into my writing, you know.
Hmm.
And I just want to say that believe in yourself, whoever you are, believe in yourself. If you have a passion for something, even if your passion is knitting, whatever your passion is, believe that you can be the best at that thing, at whatever it is.
Hmm.
So all the writers out there, if you want to write, just go ahead and write. I believe that you can do it.
Yes, I'm sure. Now I heard some little ones in the background. You have children?
Yes, I have 3 children. I was trying to shoo them away. They were
How old how old
eavesdropping. My daughter Ariel, she's 7. My second daughter Adonaya, she's 5. Sorry, Ariel's 9. My second daughter Adonaya is 7, and my son Azariah, he's 5.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, they're very, very fortunate to have such a loving and caring dad. I can already tell that. That's awesome.
Thank you,
Well,
thank you.
what a delight to meet you. And I'm sure as we go forward, we'll be doing some more. I'd like to share some of what we do and
Okay,
keep going. Um, but with this, let me go ahead and close out the interview, and stay right there.
yes,
I'm Diane K Bell, and this is Legacy Lane Publishing, and we are so excited to be able to showcase some of our great Christian authors that are coming up. And this was Denzil Wallace's Author's Odyssey.